All right, y'all. I got one from a YouTube channel called Manhood. Shout out to them. Men around the world are finally realizing this. Let's get it. This is fair use.
You must have noticed an interesting pattern emerging in the world today. Things are happening that would have been unimaginable in the late 2010s. When political correctness first came to the internet, saying something red pill related felt like breaking the law.
Mm.
But things seem to have changed. I mean, look at Andrew Tate and how he got famous so fast. Obviously, there are a ton of guys out there who like and agree with the message. You don't amass such a massive fan following overnight. The only way to do that is by building on an existing movement and utilizing its fan base. And by God, red pillars are numbering the millions now. Andrew Tate is not the only one. Now we have guys like Imam Gadzi and Hamza, and many other gurus popping up and preaching about female nature and masculinity. These are things that the gurus of old would never have imagined doing. Things have changed. The red pill movement has taken over. It has hijacked the internet, and more guys are adhering to its principles. Now, if you're a red pill veteran, you know that this was bound to happen. But for all the new guys out there and other watchers, let me explain why the red pill movement has been so effective internationally. The first reason is somewhat controversial, since I've never seen somebody say that before, but I think it makes sense. Red pill only used to exist in the corners of the internet because it was primarily a Western movement. But now, the internet has become more and more accessible worldwide, and guys from all corners of the world are getting exposed to it. I think they've contributed greatly to the red pill movement. In the 2000s, only rich people outside of the West could afford computers and phones. Now we have guys from all walks of life coming up. These guys are coming from the bottom, and they understand what the movement preaches. They weren't born all blessed and rich, so they have a lot to relate with in this movement. Couple this with the fact that everyone in the third world isn't as insane as the West is when it comes to feminism, so they agree with our message. But even if we take this factor out, the biggest reason for the red pill's growth will always be one. Its message is potent. It's a complete guide that makes sense to a lot of men out there. It's a movement rooted in reality. Everything about it comes from experience and a deeper understanding of evolutionary biology and human nature. It's not like feminism. It's not like the current transgender and other political movements. It makes sense. It's not trying to lead humanity somewhere that makes no sense.
You know what's crazy is that, like what you mentioned about Andrew Tate blowing up, who I recently just talked about on my show, they were so quick to get rid of him because now, now let me make one thing clear. I'm gonna make this clear before I continue. I'm not a huge. I was never like a Andrew Tate guy. I wasn't his number one fan or anything, but I didn't see too much wrong with what he said. I didn't agree with everything he said, but at the end of the day, like he was able to gain a massive following of young men who were just lost, they didn't understand what's going on in the world right now, and he kind of gave them that spark, like, hey, he's saying something that actually makes sense to me. Let me hear what more he has to say. The faster he blew up, the more he became a target, and bam, they got rid of him.
Sense for us. Some place that doesn't agree with our nature. And finally, because it's relatable. Let me explain. The world has become very feminine and women-centric. Whenever we think of any support movements and pop culture movements, they're always dominated by females. Even with hobbies and pastimes we have made for ourselves, it's not masculine at all. Ask yourself, watching shows, playing games, and reading books to spend time. There's nothing masculine about these.
Nah.
There's nothing wrong with doing them. But men in the past didn't spend their entire free time doing those things. Men are defined by their thirst for adventure and teamwork. They like to build and conquer.
Yeah, there has been a huge shift in, typical male behavior. Like, even with myself, like, even as a child, I would go outside and play, I was like, I had a good balance of playing outside versus like playing video games indoors growing up. I didn't just do one predominantly or the other. I had a good balance. Like a lot of times, when my friends from around the neighborhood would come through, we would come play football in the backyard, play tag or whatever, and run around till our energy ran out. Then we all had to go home before the sun went down. Or there'll be other days where if it's like way too hot outside or too humid or whatever, I'd stay inside, play video games, chill. When I didn't have to go to school or things like that. Nowadays, I mean, if you just go outside for a few minutes, you hardly see kids playing outside anymore. More kids are inside on tablets, and they're more prone to be indoors now versus back when I was growing up. That's one thing I have noticed.
These are crucial elements that are missing in society today. Because these elements are no longer here, there are almost no male mentors left. No pure, hardened, masculine men anywhere. Before you'd find men like these in every town, street, and alley. Your grandfather was one. These guys had seen life, and so when they gave advice, it made sense.
It's so crazy how now, like, masculine men are needed more than ever before, but at the same time, society likes to call it toxic, but they still want to be able to benefit from that toxic masculinity. That's what's so confusing about it. How you need men to be more masculine, but then you demonize them for being masculine. That I never agreed with.
None of those mentors exist anywhere. In the schools, we have left-leaning intellectual counselors and PE instructors who can't even run a mile themselves. Apart from studies and reading through books all day, there's almost no personal development. No motivation to take up habits that make men happy. No guidance for young guys to learn something. Help him transition from a boy to a man. But the mentorship doesn't end with young guys. Even many old guys out there are lost in life.
Wow.
Some guys are stuck in relationships they don't want. Some guy cried in front of his girlfriend, and she dumped him. He's furious. He's angry and hurt, and he doesn't understand how a woman who loved him for 3 years could do this to him. Then you have the veterans who lost life savings through marriage. They're living in some shoddy apartment somewhere, wondering why their left went downhill like this. The red pill is the center for all of these men. It's the ultimate bridge and mentor for men in the 21st century. It's a place for men who've learned the truth, who've understood the real nature of females and the modern legal system, and want to teach young guys. But even more than that, they want young guys to embrace their masculinity. Deep down, every young guy wants that, but he doesn't know how. Everywhere he's been told that the traditional masculine traits are toxic and should not be embraced in the modern world. But deep...
See, that's the catch-22. Like, how can you beg for men to be masculine again, but then encourage young boys that being masculine is wrong? Being a man is wrong. Being physical and active is wrong, because you got a lot of guys now that, you hear a lot of women complaining about how there's a huge lack of masculinity amongst the men, but like, a lot of these guys couldn't help how they were raised. Now they got to start all over again and relearn what masculinity really is. Once they figure it out, they've been lied to.
Deep down, he wants a place to vent his aggression and embrace his sexuality. The red pill teaches him how to do that. It will take him out of this rut and tell him to lift and take care of himself. Focus on a bigger purpose than looking at girls all day. When he has accomplished all of that, he will then learn about the true nature of women. We don't want to scare him or make him hate women. We want to let him know that no matter what women say, this is how they will really act. This is how they will really treat you. This is how she will judge you. All of this is going to happen. So if you want to be successful with women, you need to understand what women really want, so you don't end up like one of those guys who got burned by a woman. For guys who are already in a relationship, the red pill helps them become the dominant person in the relationship and embrace their masculine side. In a way, we are helping men realize their true potential and teach them what they are capable of. That's our temporary goal. The other thing is to let them know about divorce laws, harassment cases, rape accusations, and jail time. Until we can amass a lot of followers, these are things every man must know so he doesn't fall to them. Today, the courts of law are very biased. A woman's word goes above a man's. All a woman needs to do to ruin a man's entire life and career is to accuse him of something he didn't do, or cheat on her husband. In one simultaneous move, she will destroy both his heart and his financial situation, leaving him nothing. These are things that have happened to actual real men. We want to wake men up and let them know, look, this can happen to you too. so you better take care and tread lightly. Until we have a huge amount of followers that we gain political majority, we need to let men know about the reality of this world. We want to let men know how the world really operates and what's wrong with the modern world.
Yeah, because I think a lot of guys don't realize, like, when you become a fully grown adult and fully grown man, you'll slowly begin to see how little the world really cares about you, how people view you. It's like, I'm not saying this happens to all guys, but I think a lot of guys, are starting to see what's really going on in here and why they're being treated like this. They're such a bad person just for simply existing. I don't think that's right, because we have a right to exist just like anyone else.
Today, Twitter just jumps at the opportunity to normalize everything. It's hard to know what is even normal amidst this insanity. Well, you can trust the red pill to give you the right guidance. Things that are not normal are that way for a reason. The degeneracy on the internet was stigmatized because of a reason. But if society as a whole will not understand it's important that you do, you and every other young guy out there who wants to do something better with his life and make his ancestors proud. When a movement this sane and rational is out there free and easily accessible for every man, it's no surprise that it is getting rapid popularity. Let's keep our fingers crossed and wait for the red pill to enter serious debates. We still might be able to make a change in the world through this and save the Western world from modern insanity. Thanks for the support, guys. Keep subscribing to the channel.
Very excellent video. Very excellent video. But these are my final thoughts on this. I think a reason why a lot of young guys are lost because they grew up with a lot of feminine influence throughout their lives. And, with having most of the teachers be female, the first teacher of all children is their mother, obviously. Nothing wrong with that. And, when you have a lot of kids growing up, for the most part, without a father in the household, for whatever reason, he's not there. And the only influence and the only parent left is their mother, especially if you're a young boy. You're not gonna have that balance to balance out some of that feminine energy or that your feminine side from everything you learned from your mother, if that makes sense. And you got a lot of guys now that are embracing like a lot of they're more feminine side, I guess. If you go outside, if you walk outside, you'll see this for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. It's going to really take a lot of work to reverse a lot of what's going on right now. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take more than one generation. Maybe I don't know if I'll ever see it in my lifetime because I'm not going to hold my breath for that personally. But for there to be, a huge shift in how men operate here in the West and how there can be a better, overall better society, because when men are doing well, the society does well, right? So it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'd give it maybe give it a generation or two to fully turn things around. But then again, this whole thing of trying to, of male empowerment is going to get a lot of pushback, because that's not what the powers that be want. They want men to be weaker. They want men to be more docile, because it makes men over here easier to control. That's what it's all about. But anyways, that's all I got to say about this. What did you guys think of this video? Did you agree with it? Did you disagree with it? Do you agree with me? Let's talk about it in the comment section below, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.